Welcome gamers. Can you beat Like a Dragon Gaiden without punching? The Yakuza series is known for its wild beat 'em up action, but this time I'll be relying on the Agent style, a fast, gadget heavy combat style perfect for clearing out groups of enemies, except minus the punching and kicking. The rules are as follows: no punching and kicking, gadgets and weapons only. Heat actions are allowed, but only with gadgets and weapons. Ultimate counters are allowed, and tutorials will be skipped for obvious reason. I begin the challenge by escorting a lady back home, only to be stopped by some thugs. But this is the perfect time to show them what I got. I only have the spider gadget which can pull enemies towards you. It's a slow process, but it gets the job done. I meet up with my other colleagues, but the monkey man started a fight, so I showed him what I got, a one-way trip to the ground. After destroying my colleagues, we got ambushed by a bunch of masked men and they're armed with weapons. And that's a good thing. More weapons means more ways to attack. After clearing out some of the masked men, it's revealed that they want Hanawa. We fight another group of enemies, and this time Hanawa is fighting with us. I ran around looking for the right time to pull the enemies and made sure to pick up any weapons I could to clear out the crowd. Finally, I beat everyone and lived for another day. I was given a mission to tail some gang members, only to be caught and fighting my way out of there. It's a small space, but I made it work. Things escalate and I fight a bunch of masked men that were from the docks. It wasn't too hard since they had weapons on hand. But then I came across the first boss fight, the man in a suit. I was low on health, but that didn't bother me. I looked for a weapon so that I could do as much damage as I could. Thankfully, the heat actions do a lot of damage, which helps out a lot. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to beat him because he was one hit away from it, so I had to restart. But after a few attempts, I was able to beat him with an ultimate counter. As we were taking Tsuruno, the man in a suit, back to base, a van crashes into us and inside it is the man in a Hanya mask. He's the second boss and he's pretty tough. His moves are big and he hits hard. I was able to take him down with ease, but he goes into a second phase. This time he has 2 bars of health, and that's not going to be fun since I have a limited amount of weapons. Since the spider gadget can only stun the boss ever so often, I had to make sure I got all my hits, and use the heat action to finish the fight. After a few attempts of suffering, I was able to secure the win. We get back to the base and proceed to fight our way out since Joryu is told to let Hanawa die after being kidnapped. There are hordes of enemies at every place, and some having boss fights, which aren't the best. The next boss I encounter is Agent Raida. He looks like he came out of a Kingsman movie because he has an umbrella that shoots out electricity. The fights in chapter 1 are quite challenging because the spider gadget doesn't affect the bosses other than stunning them for a bit. I have to rely on weapons to take them out, and there's always a limit. Thankfully, I found a knife and proceeded to stab him because it also does bleed damage, which is helpful with limited means to attack. Finally, I was able to take him out. As I progressed, I got ambushed by Agent Mushin. He has a bladed shoe that is not fun to deal with. On top of that, there weren't any weapons around, so I had to make sure all my attacks count on my knife. Thankfully, I was able to proc the bleed and get some good damage. I made sure to fill my heat gauge with items and safely secured the win. Since this is my first game of the series, the fights have been fun to watch. It's as if I'm watching a movie, except for the part where you're limited in ways to attack. That is definitely not fun. I encounter a bunch of enemies and proceed to destroy them with a table. Moving on to the next area, I get stopped by a wannabe shinobi, Agent Enzin. He uses a knife, and throws a knife, and drops spikes on the floor. That's a lot of sharp things. He is probably the most annoying boss so far, but after hitting him with the table, I was able to get him low enough to end him with a bucket. Afterwards, I encountered Agent Saigo. He has 2 bars of health, and for some reason he has this blaster that shoots discs. And to be honest, I thought the umbrella was shocking. For a big guy, he is pretty agile, and he shoots out exploding discs. Unfortunately, there's only 3 weapons in the area. I have 2 bricks and a wooden katana. If I'm not careful, he can explode them, which happens multiple times. This was probably the most frustrating fight out of all the bosses. I thought Agent Enzin was annoying, but Agent Saigo takes the cake. I was able to get him low enough to use the wooden katana, but the heat action wasn't enough. Thankfully, I was able to ultimate counter him and secure the win. After the hordes of enemies and multiple boss fights, the final obstacle has come. It's a combination of both. Go figure. The next boss is Yoshimuda. The group of enemies wasn't a challenge, but getting shot at while trying to beat the mobs isn't the best. Luckily, you're able to dodge the bullets as long as you evade at the right time. Or just spam like me. At last, I was able to clear the mobs and take down Yoshimuda. I came across some thugs while looking for someone named Akame. I took them out and committed a felony. After I was done, Akame showed herself. Before I could do anything, I was tasked to help the homeless against the Yakuza. During this great escapade, I was against the group holding the homeless hostage. Despite the small space, I was able to make quick work of them. Before progressing, I did some patrol missions to get points and money for future upgrades. Some of the patrols can involve beating up thugs, singing karaoke, playing darts, and much more. There's a lot. Afterwards, I met the black market weapons dealer. I was finally given my second gadget, the Hornet. It will greatly help me during fights when I don't have weapons. He wanted to test my skills, so I had to show him the way of the bike, and with that, I was able to get more upgrades. I upgraded my gadgets and moved on to the smoke shop lady. There, I was given my third gadget, the Firefly. I got back to Akame and finally progressed to the castle. It's an adult amusement park that only VIPs can have access to. In order to find Hanawa, I had to fight a series of bosses in the Colosseum. The first boss I came across is Masaru Watase, Ishman. From what I know, he's a fake, and the real one is still in jail. Although there weren't any weapons, I had my new gadgets to fight, so I proceeded to beat him with the power of technology and running. The second boss was Kazuma Kiryu Eskman. His style of fighting reminds me of Like a Dragon Ishin, and let me tell you, he was a pain. If I don't dodge properly, I get caught in a string of combo, and on top of that, he has a gun. Well, at least I could dodge. All I did was run around using my gadgets, and any chance I got to counter him, I tried to do so. After getting shot for the millionth time, I was able to beat him. Joryu sure is durable. The next boss I fought was Ryuji Goda. To my knowledge, he's Kiryu's rival, but this guy is clearly fake. Also, I didn't notice, but I think I took fake Kiryu's clothes. Interesting. The only thing I could do was run around and summon the hornets to deal with him. Afterwards, I was dropped to the floor only to be met with cream and sugar. Such cute names for such vicious animals. Thankfully, I found a katana, so I made sure to make it count. Or not. After I beat the big cats, Ryuji Goda came for round 2. Since I had a bigger space, I made sure to utilize the Firefly. I would use it and make sure to space myself so that he would be near the explosion. My Hornet was able to take him out, and I was able to progress the story. Before I continued, I did some patrol missions and got more upgrades. Afterwards, I went to the building where they were holding Hanawa. With the new gadgets, I had an easier time unlike the Daidoji mission. That mission was probably the hardest part of the challenge. I came across Sakurama, and since I'm prepared, I had a fun time. I slammed it with a table like the WWE and moved on. The next boss I fought was Yao, and he had 3 bars of health. I thought he would be challenging, but he wasn't. He was just extra healthy. As I progressed, I figured out that the numbers on the fire extinguisher wasn't the amount of hits, but actually using the extinguisher itself. Yeah, that was an interesting mechanic. I ended up taking the gun, and despite it not having any bullets, I was able to pistol whip our next boss, Kubota. It appears the gun doesn't have any limits if you melee attack with it, which is pretty good information. I ended up losing the gun, but I made sure to pay him back with a little spin. As I progressed to the next area, I was expecting some mobs, but I got another boss, and this one has a pistol. But little did he know I can dodge bullets. And my WWE skills aren't to be underestimated either. Finally, after clearing the building, I reached the top floor and found Hanawa. He looks like he's seen better days, but it doesn't end here. I figured Tsuruno is a Thor fan since he threw a mallet at me. Then he picks up the saw blade, and dragon kicks me out the window. To top it off, he picks up a branding iron, and that's when I knew he was a Kirito fan. I didn't realize he could dual wield. That's why you never judge a book by its cover. Despite having extra mobs, it was easy to take them out. I made sure to distance myself because I'm not a fan of being stuck in a string of combos. I was able to get him low enough to take away his weapons, and the fight proceeded to an old-fashioned brawl. Except for me, I use technology. And with that, technology beats fists. I was able to save Hanawa and apprehend Tsuruno. Afterwards, I met up with Mizurogi and he gave me my last gadget, the Serpent. I'm basically Iron Man on the ground. And with that, I finished my Exodia. I went back to the Colosseum in order to progress. I fought a boss named Hammerhead, and well, he got destroyed. Next, I got introduced to a mode called Hell Team Rumble, and it's a team-based PvP match which was quite interesting. I got back to the hideout, only to start an all-out brawl with Daidoji because they wanted to kill Tsuruno. But with all the gadgets I had, I was unstoppable. Maybe not. After I cleared the enemies, I was left with Hanawa, the man who I saved, and he repays me back with a beatdown. The audacity of this guy. I made sure to show him who was boss. After I defeated everyone, reinforcements came and Hanawa was ordered to shoot me. This is not how I thought Joryu would go, but I guess that's that. I'm kidding. This was all a test. Really? Anyways, after that fiasco, I did some patrol missions to get more upgrades, and some of the missions get quite crazy. I went back to the Colosseum in order to hit gold rank, but it would appear that Nishitani, the owner of the castle, really wants me. I get chased by his men all throughout the castle. Even the enslaved workers try to beat me up. Eventually, I make it back to the main area, but I'm stopped by a bunch of masked men and a masked man wearing a Speedo while holding a sledgehammer. Honestly, that's pretty normal to me. I destroyed it with my ultimate hornet attack, and just as I was about to escape, Nishitani stops me on his bike. Yo, he did the thing. We get into a brawl, and he's quite fast. He uses a knife, which is not the best because he can cause bleeding. But don't worry, I wore armor that prevents bleeds, so we're safe. Almost. As I was preparing to use my ultimate move, I ended up getting a slow-mo from dodging his attack. Something I did not know was a thing till now, and I beat the game once. but I just ended up wasting my heat gauge because it goes into a cutscene, which is pretty epic because the fight sequence is awesome. Honestly, I'm surprised that Nishitani is keeping up with Joryu considering he's a skilled fighter. And I think he's around 50 years old right now, so props to Joryu for giving a beatdown. After hitting an epic quick time event, we get into his second phase. He uses a flashbang and gets behind me trying to use a secret move, but unfortunately for him, I took him for a spin. As he's laying down a barrage of attacks, my Hornets finish the job. After the fight, Joryu ends up giving a right hook, which shocks me because he knocked him out with one punch. Maybe fists are better than technology. Thanks to Tsuruno, I was able to escape the castle. But as I got back, there was news that Mizurogi was attacked and got his gadget stolen. I confronted the thug and started the fight with a big explosion. Patriarch Aotsuki has a set of Hornets as well, but it's not enough against the master of gadgets. I was able to show him who's boss, is what I wanted to say, but he ends up Dempsey rolling me and knocking me out. I've never felt more embarrassed in my life. But in the next fight, I took him out with a tonfa. Afterwards, I started fighting a bunch of wandering Yakuzas because we needed to make noise so Nishitani runs out of hiding. Not only do I have to beat the members of the Oni Alliance, I go on a spending spree with food, get into more fights, sing some karaoke, get into more fights, play some pool, get into more fights. And yeah, I think you get the gist of it. After that crazy night, I confronted the Kijin clan, and with the power of modern technology, I took everyone out in the room with ease. Don't mind the health. It was easy. Maybe not. Then I went back to the castle to make even more noise so Nishitani comes out of hiding. I took out his men and ended up conquering the castle myself. As I was about to leave, one of the legendary Colosseum fighters stopped me in my tracks, Dan Brody. He's an interesting one because he's like an assassin, but he also has the Hornets as well. He was quite peculiar, but after defeating him, I made my way back for more chaos. I went to the golf center and fought the Kijin clan members. Shishido was there to help me, but he got really tired, so I ended up taking everyone out myself. Thanks a lot. After the fight, we drove to the place Nishitani was hiding at. We were met with a welcome party, although they weren't that hospitable. I ended up clearing the wave of enemies with ease, and well, Shishido was there too. After a constant wave of enemies and multiple felonies, we reached the top floor Nishitani was on. Although the building was on fire, it didn't stop the crazy fight. This time, Nishitani has a wide health bar, so that would mean he has 5 health bars. Despite the increase in HP, I was confident to take him out. Nishitani is fast as ever, and once you get him down to a certain point, he ends up teleporting to you while flashing you. Afterwards, he uses his ultimate, to which I missed the counter and just die. On the second run, I try to use the objects around me before they break because I broke them the first time. This attempt was easier because I knew all of his moves. I was able to finish him off with my ultimate move before he ended me. Since the building was burning, we tried to escape, and since Joryu has a conscience, he wanted to take Nishitani as well. Shishido had other plans. Oh my goodness. I don't know if I can even show this. After that surprise event, we move on to the final battle. Wait, aren't you supposed to be in jail? Did I forget to mention that the whole reason we needed Nishitani out of the picture is because Masaru Watase is one of the captains in the Omi Alliance, and after he got released, his goal was to abolish the Alliance and the Yakuza as well. Obviously, for someone like Nishitani, that wouldn't sit well, but at least things are gonna end smoothly. You know, it's kind of unexpected that Shishido would help us too, because he seems like the type to be a Yakuza through and through. Seems like you really can't judge a book by its cover. Oh no, wait. Yeah, there we go. Oh, and guess what? Look who's back from the dead. Okay, this is just a fever dream, and honestly, I'm for it. Clearly they want to take Watase out, so I made sure to show them who's the big boss around here. Nishitani invites me to a revenge match, but unfortunately for him, I'm Iron Man on the ground, so this will be a piece of cake. Okay, the second time will be a piece of cake. This time, I took out his men and beat him with a brick, to which I'm surprised he's still alive. Oh, maybe this time he's dead. Afterwards, I cleaned up the remaining enemies and took out Shishido because at this point, I already knew all his moves. Plus, I used a knife. Unwilling to give up, he makes one final attempt to defeat Joryu, only to get absolutely mollywopped and dropped to his doom. I hope. I don't know, at this point, all these guys are superhumans. Finally, after beating everyone up and some more, it's time to... Oh come on, how are you alive? You dropped like 3 stories and were hit by a brick. Oh great, now the captain's gonna die. Wait a minute. Ooh, yeah, that has to hurt. Okay, this time he is for sure dead. Like, he has to be, right? After the big battle and some next level human durability, we reached the main base and Captain Watase announced the end of the Omi Alliance. And the story ended happily ever after. I'm just kidding, everyone rioted and now it was a full-time brawl. I had to make sure no one touches Captain Watase, so I cleared out the enemies in front of me. But he ends up getting stabbed and he starts bleeding. Okay then. After clearing out the enemies inside, I made sure to secure the outside so no one else comes in. At this point in the game, these bosses are pretty easy to take out. With the boss down, it seems like everything is over and we can escort Captain Watase to the police. It would be unfortunate if someone were to stop us. Well, guess who's back from the dead? Of course you weren't dead. That'd be too easy. Wait a minute, he just stopped the knife with his hand. And he took it out. With his high charisma, he sparks a flame in the Omi Alliance members, and we get into a crazy fight. Except, why did everyone take off their shirts? I don't really know. After clearing out the group, Shishido invites me to one final revenge match, which is quite interesting because the whole point was to stop Captain Watase from abolishing the Omi Alliance. Well anyways, after some talking, and Joryu stopping a katana slash, the final battle begins. Shishido has a sky blue health bar, and that's about, I don't know, too many health bars. My man became a raid boss right now. Thankfully the space is wide so I don't have to worry about getting hit, but eventually I do and he hurts a lot. I ended up getting his health down to initiate a crazy cutscene, to which they fall and proceed to get back up. Are these guys superhumans? Goodness. We get to a new area, only this time it's a lot smaller, and the stairs are blocked by a thin metal chain. Every game character's weakness. Blocked areas. I made sure to use the serpent to be mobile and deal damage. I tried to use everything possible to get some damage in. At this point in the game, I used so many health items because he was kicking my butt, and I was so scared not to fight him without full health. I get him low enough with serpent to start another cutscene. Only this time, he brings out the katana near the suit of armor. The fact that there's a katana there is kinda crazy. We end up in a bigger area, and this time there are objects nearby. Any chance I got, I made sure to use the weapon to their max potential cause this guy is actually scary. Except, I wasted a heat bar cause I triggered the next phase. And also, did you just stop a katana like that? My bad sir, I did not know your game. After getting thrown to the top and returning the favor, it's time for the final showdown. We end up at the roof of the entrance and everyone just waiting for this to end. Now it's time to bring out the big guns. I simply ran around spamming hornets. I didn't take any chances. At this point during the fight I thought to myself, what would I do if I saw two half-naked men fighting on top of a roof and one's chasing the other while one of them is running while summoning drones? Clearly I would want to see who wins, but that's just me. Finally, after countless laps and hundreds of drones summoned and destroyed, I was able to get him low enough to trigger the final scene. And man does it get crazy. The fight scenes are absolute cinema, and wow, he punched him pretty far. Yeah, this game is peak. Finally, it's over. This bizarre game and challenge has come to an end. Well, if you got this far, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to drop a like. It helps out a lot. And if you want me to play any of the other Yakuza games, comment down below so I know what you guys want.